You've all heard the expression, ladies and gentlemen, this is a television first. Tonight we have with us an Academy Award first. The winner of the very first Oscar presented by the Academy, the very lovely and charming Miss Jeanette Gaynor, ladies and gentlemen.
Around the world, Baby Day.
Welcome back to The Better Half. I'm Bradley J. Halverson, and here with me, she's my better half. It's Carly Corio. Hi, Carly.
Hi, Bradley. How are you today?
I'm good. I got the day off today, so I'm living it up.
I don't have the day off today, but I'm making time for this.
Hey, hypothetically, if we decided to jump into a hot air balloon and go see the world, would you do that?
Yes. No, yes, I would. Only because it's you.
If I drastically change my facial hair, though...
Would you be okay driving a little bit with the air balloon, or would I have to drive the whole way?
No, I just want to drink champagne.
Okay. That's actually fine, as long as I can have some and you can handle the tunes.
Yeah. Oh, for sure, yeah. Carly, how are you, though?
Doing very well.
Okay.
I'm in full swing, summer Carly, doing well, having a ball. Yeah, how about you?
It's very hot.
It's very hot, which I love. You don't.
No, yeah, I just don't like being sweaty, and the sun burns me so easily, and the sun really loves you and your beautiful skin. So
I know. My beautiful Italian skin. I keep seeing this sweatshirt online that just says indoorsy, and I keep wanting to buy it for you.
Yeah, my mom loves retelling this childhood story of mine when we visited our grandparents, and our grandparents were like, we need to go outside, let's go sledding, let's go do something. And my response as an 8-year-old was like, we're not really outdoors people. Just speaking for everybody. And I still hold true to that.
Yeah, you are still that way.
Well, Carly, before we get into this episode's movie, we do have a bit of old business. Last episode, you had asked, what's an actor that we see these days where when we see them, we know, they're the villain, they're going to be the bad guy. And I thought about this a lot, and I have an answer for you.
Okay, I can't wait.
Okay, my answer is Kirsten Dunst's husband, Jesse Plemons.
As the bad guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Every time you see him on screen, you just know.
Wow.
Oh, that character is going to be up to no good.
Okay, but you obviously have not watched the television series Friday Night Lights, where he is a true gem of a person, and I feel like that was his claim to fame. So that's the only thing that's keeping me from that. But having seen Civil War with you recently, yeah, I would agree. He's an awful human.
Yeah, and yeah, it's clear to me you haven't seen the end of Breaking Bad or that Black Mirror episode, USS Callister.
I've seen one of those.
The Black Mirror episode.
No.
Wait, you watched Breaking Bad?
Bad, shut up. Yes, I've watched Breaking Bad.
This is brand new information.
Stop it. I watch all culturally relevant television shows, and you know this.
This is a Better Half Pod exclusive.
Yeah, I watched it. I know all about Heisenberg and that blue stuff he would sell. Aaron Paul was a cultural awakening for me in college. I can remember sitting in my dorm room in college watching Breaking Bad. I had watched all the other ones on streaming, and then there was an all-day marathon of the last season, which I had not watched. So in one day, I watched the whole last season leading up to the finale. So yeah, I watched it. I was very committed. Okay.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is genuinely new information. Or I'm kind of bad at listening, so it's very possible you told me this.
I probably definitely have.
Well, I think more often than not, Jesse Plemons, I'm a little scared of you.
Okay. Did you give any thought to the kind person, the kind man of our generation?
No, I did throw out Pedro Pascal.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You did.
And then, Kirsten Dunst, every time you see her, she's never playing somebody bad.
Yeah.
You're about to bring up Friday Night Lights. She's in that too.
No, she's not. No, I mean, that's true. I just am trying to think of, I feel like one movie where she is not very kind. I don't know what it's called, but it's out there. I can picture the front of the movie cover, and she's laying down, and it's green.
Oh, okay. Maybe it's Melancholia.
Oh my God, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Melancholia. That's exactly what it is. Is she nice in that or no?
Okay, I've only watched the first 10 minutes of it, and every shot was a slow motion, shot. And like I was like, I can't do this for the rest of the movie. It's a very like weird artsy kind of film.
Okay.
So I cannot speak to that, but I do know that she's in it. I forget that director's name, but yeah, he does a lot of like artsy,
kind of like that Jennifer Lawrence movie where it's always just up in her face the whole time. I was gonna say, is that just called Mother?
Mother, exclamation point.
Is it with an exclamation point?
Yes.
Wow, it's like the Oliver of our generation.
Yeah. Mother.
No, that's like so hot that you guessed Melancholia based on my very small explanation. But yeah, I mean, I guess that she just looks kind of evil in that, but you're right. I guess Kirsten Dunst is probably a good one.
Well, we're here to talk about a movie that Kirsten Dunst is not
in. Unfortunately, it might have helped.
We're here today to talk about Around the World in 80 Days, directed by Michael Anderson. It won Best Motion Picture at the 29th Academy Awards, which took place on March 27th, 1957.
Great day.
This is a adaptation of a novel by Jules Verne. Very similar to Oliver, we're like heading back to 1800s London for another whimsical adventure.
And I will say, knowing that as we were watching the movie, you consistently were like, where's Oliver? Talking about like, oh, there's the streets of London. Where's Oliver?
Yeah. I do think these two movies take place in the same universe. I think this was the beginning of like a shared cinematic universe.
Wow, yeah.
Let's get into it. Again, this was a 3-hour movie, so we have a lot, or perhaps not a lot, to get through.
And for the fans, we watched this one together. That's something important to note.
We did, yes. Carly and I, unsurprisingly, we find that watching these movies are just funner when we're together.
And can I say, thank the gods that we watched this one together, because it helped a lot.
Yeah. I'll just start with this right away. One of the places they go to in this movie is Turd City. Just a big ol' stinker. But it's okay, we're gonna have fun today. Yeah. So this movie begins very bizarrely. We get treated to a strange man talking to us, the camera, and he's in a like Instagram ratio sized box. This man is like a real life journalist, and he's talking to us for like 10 minutes about another Jules Verne book from Earth to Space, I believe. And I genuinely don't understand what the connection is between this and the actual movie we were watching. At best, I think it was a way to sort of maybe introduce the fact that this film, there was maybe some technological advancements in filmmaking. Because then the ratio changes when we start seeing these like shots of the Earth from space. The ratio widens out. And, you know, obviously this movie is about going around the world. So I think some of these shots of the Earth, that's the best connection I can make to why we were treated to this 10-minute documentary at the beginning of this movie.
Yeah.
And we go there, we go straight into London. We are being introduced to something called the Reform Club. This is like a private men's club here in England. No women allowed, just a lot of white men in suits, just kind of lounging around as if they have no jobs of their own.
Much like most of the movies up until this time. No women allowed. A lot of white men.
No women allowed. Yep. And they're like holding a business meeting, and there's another man there who's speaking about his experiences being a butler or whatever to a guy named Phileas Fogg. And this former butler guy, he's like, Fogg, he's insane. He's so particular. He's a tyrant. I hate it here. I quit.
Would not recommend.
Yes. And in the audience, watching this is our man Passepartout, who we will just call Passport. But he's in the audience. He hears this. He hears of basically a job opening. He just came into London on his one-wheel bicycle.
One big wheel, one little wheel.
Yeah. I don't know if those have official names, but that is what he wrote in on. Passport here, he heads off to Fogg and works for him instead. So he heard all this bad feedback about Fogg and was like, that's fine with me. I just need employment. So Fogg is clearly a member of this like men's private club. And again, he's very particular, very rich. We next kind of see him and some of his club buddies playing a card game. I will say, Fogg loves this card game and is playing it in nearly every scene of the movie. I forget.
It is called Whist. WHIST.
Yeah, which sounds a lot like euchre. They're talking about like, oh, the spades are trump or whatever. And so I know I lived in Michigan long enough to know what euchre sounds like. So.
Yeah, you cannot play euchre though. Meanwhile, I do often. My
Really?
Brad, again, do you listen to me? My family has euchre tournaments.
This is brand new information. Another exclusive to the pod.
Yeah, no, we play often, and I talk about it. I've talked about it before.
So, would you agree that whist?
Yes, based on the short amount of stuff I read on whist, it's very much like euchre. Only with euchre, you only use cards 9 through ace of each suit, whereas with whist, you use the whole deck.
Yeah, well, they're playing this card game. They're all like talking and laughing, whatever, and they also mentioned that like recently they've been stolen from. There's been a series of thefts around town, and they quickly move on from that to talk about traveling the world. And perhaps somebody else was like, "Oh, they did it in 100 days or whatever." And Fogg, of course, is like, "Well, I can do it in 80 days." These guys were like, "No, you cannot. Shut up, you dumb bitch.
Fogg.
You cannot do that." Fogg's like, "Well, what if we bet on it? Because that seems to be what they do.
We all have money."
Right. And they're like, "Okay." Yeah, they all get on board. And Fogg's like, "Great, I'm going to leave today."
Right now.
Go around the world right fucking now.
I think they even say, they're like, "You can do it in a couple of days." And he's like, "No, I'm leaving now. Right now. Tonight. 8:45, I'm leaving."
Yep. So Fogg rushes home to get his passport from Passport. And
who uses an actual dumbwaiter. Remember? We were like, wait. He climbs into like this hole in the wall, opens this secret passage, climbs in, and then we're like, wow, that's an actual dumbwaiter, pulley and all.
Yeah, and Fogg like is mad about it. He's often mad at Passport for doing literally anything, and Passport is just so happy to be there, so excited, and is going to be going off with Fogg, really, I think, just to hold his passport and to be his travel companion, and also is just ready to leave immediately. So with no plans, just empty head, smooth brain, no thoughts. They just head off to Paris.
In one bag that we don't even see Passport packing. It's just this huge, I think, red
You're
bag.
So right.
It's like he's been waiting for this trip his whole week as his butler and is ready to go. So he grabs his bag and they're on their way.
Yeah, both men in like formal attire, and they will be like the entire movie. And I think we also need to address this with Passport right away. Passport, he has some facial hair. Okay, and we have to talk about it right now, okay? I need you to imagine a mustache, and then I now need you to imagine shaving off just the middle part of that mustache, just the part that's directly under your nose, but you keep the handlebars, so to speak.
The middle, you shave off the middle 3/5 of this mustache, by the way.
Yes.
The majority of it.
He has no other hair on his face except for these little things around the corners of his mouth, and it's upsetting. It's off-putting, and it has to be the worst. And Carly, I just have to know, could you reasonably date a man who had this kind of facial hair?
I could not. And upon further investigation, this is just the actor's facial hair. That's how it always is for him in life, not even just in this movie.
I will say I could date it. The lights have to be off and no kissing.
Okay, that's fair.
But that's also crazy of like not a single person on set. The director, they were like, "Hey, that's good with us. Go ahead and keep it," you know. And I'll say, despite that facial hair, Passport really is, I think, the heart of the movie. I think sure. He's definitely, I think, seen as like the comedic relief, and I think we are meant to sort of see the world through his eyes because he's the one that's most excited by everything that they see. But the first thing they see is a travel agency in Paris, France, and they're plotting out their route. And they learn, though, at the travel agency that the particular tunnel that they're going to want to take is blocked, is closed off. And so Fogg takes a beat and he's like, "Hey, what about like giant hot air balloon that's in the back of the building?" And the travel agency's like, "Oh yeah,
I got that.
we just have had that." But yeah, go ahead and take it. And so probably this is probably the movie's like grandest moment. The hot air balloon is there. Passport and Fogg get into it. Pretty much the whole city of London, Oliver, Bill, Mr. Fagin, they all rush out there to see, even though this is Paris, they all rush out there to see the balloon take off. And it's like huge swelling music, and they take off in this hot air balloon with no bags. It really, again, it's just the two of them in their formal attire taking off. And then we are, I think for the next 15 minutes, we just see them in this balloon.
Easily.
Just in the sky, and
very little dialogue, very little. There's some non-dialogue scenes where we just see them doing stuff, or, a lot of that. Yeah. But it's just a lot of scenery. It's a lot of, which is a very common theme in the movie. We just see a lot. They don't say a lot, but it takes a long time.
Fogg is like making Passport like climb up on the ropes and make a bunch of like adjustments, just like fully risk your life,
his life
Passport.
The whole time.
Meanwhile, Fogg like opens a bottle of champagne when they're like over the like
the Alps.
Some Alps out there. But something goes wrong. They get off course. They're meant to head east, but the balloon lands in Spain. And this is the first time the movie really like defied my expectations, because I had not seen this movie before. I had not read the book either, and I think that is true for Carly as well.
Yeah.
And I really thought they were in the balloon the whole way. Like I thought they'd take the balloon the entire way around the Earth.
mean, I knew nothing about this movie / story, but the only thing I related with it was the symbol of the hot air balloon. So yeah, I expected them to be in the hot air balloon the full movie. I expected it to be a main character of the film, and it was just kind of stopped being in the film at all. It was, not kidding, 20 minutes of this 3-hour film had the balloon in it, and that's it.
Yeah, because it lands in Spain and head off to a little Spanish club, and then we're treated to a 10-minute dance number with no dialogue, just dancing. And I get the point of it, right? Because like obviously we're going around the world, right? I think the appeal of this movie is that we're truly seeing the sights, the culture, the people of these different places. So I understand, but I think from a viewer perspective, it's like, can we get on with it a little bit? But we get treated to this big dance number, and a couple of guys approach Fogg, and they're like, hey, we can get you a big old boat that can get you out of here, but only if your man Passport does some bullfighting tomorrow morning. And Fogg takes a millisecond. He's like, yeah, sounds great.
Absolutely.
He'll do it.
I've been risking his life this whole time. Let's do it.
So, boom, we cut to the next morning. We're in a giant arena filled with extras. I did read that there's no CGI in this movie.
Wow.
That was like 10,000 extras filling the stadium. And Passport goes out there, and I don't know enough about bullfighting or anything. I know, like, they have the flag, that the audience is Olay, and I don't really know if you're like scoring points or if that's just really it. But Passport goes out there, he does a few things, and the audience is like laughing at him, so I'm guessing he's doing it wrong. But me, myself, I genuinely have no idea. He's staying alive, so I think he's doing it right. So yeah, he dances with this bull, the whole town loves it, and Fogg secures his ship, and so they take off to the Suez. And we cut back to London. The Reform Club has like churned out this entire meeting room with a giant sort of board to track Fogg's movement. And somehow they are getting like real-time updates about Fogg's movements and where he's going next. And they are all tracking it on this like giant sort of like sports board.
Sports board?
He's here. I told Carly this while we were watching, but it really reminds me of the movie Rat Race, where all the rich people were in Las Vegas, also tracking the movements of all the people and placing bets. And it's very, very similar vibe.
Yes, for sure.
And so that's happening at the Reform Club. But the police in London, they are meeting here. We got Inspector Fix and his supervisor. And his supervisor is like, in my opinion, they make a huge leap in logic here. They're like, well, hey, there's this guy who's going around the world right now making news. And we've also had like a series of burglaries and thefts. I bet this guy did it. He's our thief. We need to go to arrest him. He's like fleeing town.
No thought, no other investigation.
Yeah.
It was just the right answer.
No evidence, yep. And so they have to wait for an arrest warrant, but they also have to arrest Fogg in an area that's like controlled, like that's within like British jurisdiction, to be like a British controlled area. Otherwise they can't just arrest him. So Inspector Fix like heads off to the Suez, and eventually they get to India, and Fix, he is kind of incognito, but he approaches Passport trying to get a little bit of some inside scoop about Fogg. What are the plans? Passport really doesn't pick up on anything. He's like, yeah, I'm just like here with my boss, and we're just driving around the world, and we got to meet a deadline, and look, we're in India right now. And I don't know if it's Fix or another guy, but eventually Fogg and Passport are joined by a man who looks straight out of Jumanji in terms of his attire. They're heading through a jungle at nighttime. Not sure what the plan is, where they're going, but they stumble across this event in the woods, and a dead man is about to be burned. And this is where we meet our Hindu princess woman, Princess Auda.
Hindu princess woman said with air quotes, by the way.
Yep, this is played by the very white Shirley MacLaine in brownface. So that's not great.
Not at all.
yeah, genuinely, I mean, obviously society has changed and has grown and evolved in race and representation and how we view that in comparison to when this movie comes out. But yeah, this does not age well at all. But she's about to be burned alive as well. We really don't understand it all because we're really just getting, like, the men are in the tree line watching from afar. And I get the sense that this is her husband who's dead and being burned alive. But for some reason, they're like, you have to join him too and burn with him on this funeral pyre. And Fogg is like, oh, we could do something about this. And he kind of looks at the Jumanji man, and then he like looks to his left, and Passepartout's like gone. And next thing you know, we see our Hindu princess woman, Princess Ayuda, on the pile of wood, about to be burned alive, and there's a supposedly dead corpse next to her, who suddenly starts moving, and it's not her dead husband, it's Passport.
Again, risking his life.
Yeah, I don't know how he pulled off this switcheroo. I don't know. This all happened within seconds. And he kind of grabs the princess's hand, and they jet off, and they officially rescue her. And even though she's like a princess, she's like, I don't need to stay in my home country. I'm just going to go with you two, guys. This looks like fun. I'm just going to join you. And so now our party of two has become a party of three as they leave India and they head off to Hong Kong. And this is probably the funniest moment in the whole movie. But when they arrive to Hong Kong, it's daytime, it's daylight, they're in a busy street, and Fogg is like, Passport, like, we're going to go do something else. He's like, why don't you just hang out? And he's like, but don't dilly-dally. Don't get into any trouble. And Passport just has this like Jim Halpert look to camera, and he's like, oh, I won't. Cut to a kind of a wide shot of this busy street, and we just see Passport riding an ostrich cutting through the crowd.
Fully on top of the ostrich, by the way, saddle-backed on this ostrich, whereas we see another man riding an ostrich, but in like a carriage being towed by the ostrich. So I don't know if Passport got it wrong, assumed wrong, but definitely a more invasive way of riding this ostrich.
I think Passport fully knew what he was doing. I think he saw those birds and was like, I'm going to take one of those and I'm going to ride it. And I will
say ostrich rides is the only note I have on there, stop in Hong Kong. So you're right. That's basically all that happened here.
Well, a little bit does happen at night. So Inspector Fix is still following them, and he's still trying to find ways to disrupt their journey so that they have enough time for the arrest warrant to arrive so that Inspector Fix can arrest Fogg for these crimes he definitely made. and so his tactic here in Hong Kong is him and Passport are at a bar, and he keeps really trying to like get Passport to take a drink. Hey, I made this for you special. Take a sip. And Passport's like, oh no, I couldn't. I had a big day of ostrich riding. I couldn't possibly. But eventually he does. He takes the tiniest sip. And it's the most fast-acting thing I've ever seen. The room starts spinning. Passport's like, whoa. Collapses.
I said it when we were watching. It was reminiscent of Wings when bubbles started coming out of stuff for Jack.
Yeah. Passport he's out. He's out for the count. And Inspector Fix and I think some of the local police get him onto the boat that they're going to be on the next day that's heading off to Japan. Fogg and the rest of them don't know where Passport is, and apparently Passport's the only one really like holding the itinerary and making sure that like Fogg is getting to where he needs to be, because the next morning the boat takes off for Japan without Fogg and the princess. You would think Fogg would be a little bit more on top of what time the ship was leaving. Meanwhile, Passport, he gets to Japan first, and again wanders. I'm pretty sure it's the same street in every location, just
decorated,
just redecorated. Yep. And in true Passport fashion, he just stumbles across a Japanese circus and joins them, and is inducted immediately and is performing with the circus group.
Immediately.
Meanwhile, Fogg and Princess, and they're really not delayed at all. They find another boat and they head off to Japan as well. So Inspector Fix is doing a really poor job. They get there, and wouldn't you know it, their first stop is that circus. And they go into the audience and they see Passport and they're like, hey, Passport!
There he is.
And Passport, who's like at the top of the pyramid, just jumps off. and
immediately ends his career as a circusman.
Yeah. And that's really all they get up to in Japan. And they board another ship and they're heading off towards the United States. So They eventually arrive in San Francisco. It's like, I think it's like 4th of July, or like, no, a big like political election is going on.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people, again, in the same street that's been redecorated. They go to this like bar. Frank Sinatra, we believe, is like playing the piano, but we just see the back of his head. Supposedly this movie really boasts that like it's like an all-star cast, that like all of these like big name celebrities are sprinkled throughout the whole movie. Unfortunately, Carly and I, we have no idea who any of those people are.
Recognize zero of them.
So they go to a bar and they secure passage on a train now to take them to New York City. And during this big train ride, Princess, she's like falling in love with Fogg. Her whole storyline here really is just like, she's so enamored with this man who I don't think could care less about any of his travel companions, who just wants to make it back home and win the wager.
She's in love, much like all of our female protagonists in our movies we've watched so far. There's one female, and she consistently is falling for the lead male, and that's her main character trait.
Yeah, we are not progressing at all. We're not moving the needle for women being represented in these Best Picture winners.
Like you said, she's a princess, but somehow her character is minimized to who she's in love with.
Yeah, she doesn't even appear for like 90 minutes into the movie, and then she's in immediate peril where she needs to be rescued by men because the Best Picture winners love to kill off their women as well, and so she nearly is a victim of that. But
I can't wait for a strong female character.
Can't wait. Maybe our next one. So she's falling in love. They're on this train ride, but the train gets attacked by Native Americans. This is an unfriendly Indian tribe that is just full on assault of the train. They're boarding it. There's very dramatic fight scenes and like shots ringing out. Everybody on the train has a gun. I mean, they're in America.
Even in the 1800s.
They all just go under their chairs and they pull out like a shotgun. So they're all really ready. And there's a big fight scene. Passport, for some reason, gets on top of the train because he just can't help but just go big. And he falls off the train but survives, but he gets captured. And he's nearly burned alive. He's like tied up to a big wooden post. Fogg finally does something useful in this movie, and he helps rescue Passport. They get on the train, and Carly and I were ready to see what New York City looks like in the 1800s, and we don't. We skip it.
Not a single scene is taken in New York City. The only way we even know they went to New York City is because they quickly flash back to the Gentleman's Club, and it says on there, like, current place, New York.
Yeah, and they're also establishing, too, that, like, oh, no, like, he didn't make it to New York City on time. He's missed the boats that's going to take him all the way to Liverpool or wherever.
The bets against Fogg are growing, for sure.
Yes, yep. And so we cut back. We do see them on a boat. This boat is headed towards South America, Venezuela. But Fogg, in his infinite number of riches, apparently, still loaded, he bribes the ship's captain to take them all the way to Europe instead. So this ship that was only really designed to go to South America is now taking a much longer trip. And so, inevitably, the ship loses fuel. And to avoid being stranded, they have to sort of take everything off the ship and burn it for fuel.
Yeah. So the captain of the ship is telling Fogg, like, we aren't probably going to make it. And Fogg is like, well, can we go faster? And he's like, this ship will not make it if we go faster, and blah, blah, blah. And Fogg's like, we'll go faster. And he consistently is like, because he's racing against the clock. And so they're continuing to go faster. And all of a sudden the captain's like, we're out of fuel and we're not going to make it anywhere. And so without even skipping a beat, Fogg says, would you take this much money for this boat? And the captain's like, well, and then he like doubles it. And he's like, absolutely, it's your boat now. And so Fogg's like, excellent. As captain of this ship, I order everyone to burn everything and throw it into the steam engine. So they do. They are taking the whole boat apart. You know, the outside, the inside, they're throwing chairs in, everything to just keep this boat going. And honestly, this was my favorite part of the whole film. I really liked it. Yeah, the former captain was like, half of the people on this ship are going to die. And Fogg was like, not the better half. Here's my money. You're right. So it's suddenly a montage of all of them. It's like one of those time-lapse videos. Like, they're all running around the ship, grabbing everything, throwing it. Passport's like literally doing everything. They take the ship's mast, which is like this busty mermaid Henrietta.
woman. And
the old captain's like, no, not Henrietta. No. And then they're like, well, we have to make it, and she's a lot of fuel. They're like,
literally, we need to burn one woman in this movie. And Fogg's plan works. They make it to England. They make it to Liverpool. And upon immediately getting off the boats, there's Inspector Fix yet again, and he is like, hey, you're under arrest, buddy. So they arrest Fogg. They throw him in jail. And Passepartout's just like standing outside of his little jail cell. And literally Fogg is in there for about like 2 minutes. And then here comes the inspector with his hat in hand. And he's like, turns out this other guy was arrested for these crimes and you were innocent the whole time. So
turns out somebody actually looked into this and didn't just assume the whole time. And you're innocent.
Yeah, I was so disappointed because they made this such a big part of the movie, this sort of like mystery of like who was stealing the money, and we don't even see who the culprit is. The arrest happens off screen. It's like it wasn't even Fogg this whole time. And that's just the end of that plot line. But Fogg, he's like full Charlie Brown now, sort of head down, walking around. He's lost the wager. He's like, it's Sunday. We've missed it. The princess is like, hey, sexy, like, I'm still into you. Like, let's get married. Like, I'm here. And he just is still like, yeah, but I lost the wager.
Yeah, but I'm poor.
And Passport is like running errands, running around. And he hears or sees the newspaper or hears that it's not Sunday, it is actually Saturday. And the realization here is that they were heading east this whole way through. They crossed the international date line and it's like a day sooner than they thought it was. So Passport runs home. Fogg is literally like, Passport, what are you doing here? Like Passport like bursts into the room to deliver this wonderful news. And Fogg is like, how dare you just enter in this room without knocking? And I've lost the wager, Passport. And he's like, no, you didn't. He's like, you still have 10 minutes left. And so Fogg is like, oh my God, wait, let me double check your work. Oh my God, you're right. And he sprints off. He leaves. And this is like the end of the movie. He's just running through. He's initially like in a carriage, but that's being delayed. So he jumps off and he's running through the streets of London. Happens to run into this like church group with this church lady, and she's like, do you believe in Jesus Christ or whatever she say? That. And he literally is like, I have to go. And she was like, okay. She's like, no, you don't. And he's like, yeah, I do. And so he just barrels on through. And the members of the Reform Club, we cut to them and they're like, oh, that idiot. Oh,
loser.
He's only got 2 seconds left. He's not going to make it. It's over. And right as the clock strikes, Fogg is like, surprise, bitch. And they're like, wow, golly gee.
Great Scott.
Wow, you did it. 80 days. And somehow the princess made it there in the exact same time, despite the fact that we didn't see her.
Traveling, running at all.
She's like, hey, I'm also here in this boys' club. And the men all audibly gasp.
And they say, great Caesar's ghost, a woman. This is the end.
And the movie ends. I shit you not. That is how this 3-hour movie ends, with Great Caesar's ghost, a woman.
It was such a shocking ending, I will say.
Oh yeah, unbelievable. And that's genuinely the movie. And we've already kind of forecasted this already, but I will say, like, this movie was not. It was fun watching it because I was here with Carly, but this movie was not my favorite. Yeah. Obviously, what I think you have to commend this movie for is its like cinematography. Every place that they went to, they were literally there on set. Like they were in Japan, they were in China, they were in the United States filming. All the animals that we saw were real, all of those people. This was a huge, epic blockbuster movie. Yeah. But I think like what was sacrificed in all that epicness was 3-dimensional characters, like character development, an intriguing story. All of our characters begin the movie in one place and they end the movie in the exact same place. They didn't experience any growth. It's not like Fogg, who is a very unlikable guy. He remains the same. And if anything, he actually wins the wager, gets more money, and he's got a princess bride now. Yeah. So everything turned up great for Fogg, where like Passport is still in service of Fogg, and the princess, it's like her whole story was just to be with this man. So super underdeveloped character there.
Yeah, I will say, and I watched the trailer for the movie on YouTube, and it was very much sold and, advertised as this adventure film. And I think we even talked about when we were watching, if we didn't have the internet today, we can Google, put on VR glasses and be anywhere in the world. So in 56 or whatever, when this movie came out, that probably was a really cool thing to see. And there were a lot of cultural things, the flamenco dances, the bullfights, and in Japan, we see a lot of cultural things there. So it probably was a really cool thing to see. They really, in the trailer, talked about seeing the world and all the cameos, which again is probably really cool for people. So I could see why people would go see it. It was hard to imagine it winning Best Picture, but like you said, with all the work and the technical things that had to go into filming everywhere and all the people and just all the logistics, it probably deserved it. But yeah, not a film I enjoyed.
Yeah. It also said it was a comedy.
Oh,
I did
yeah.
not laugh, not once. And there have been other adaptations of this book, and I believe one has Jackie Chan in it. But I do think like they could do this movie again, and I think the appeal of it is maybe not necessarily places, but like I think it would be fun to see an updated adaptation that is also filled with like a lot of celebrities that we know now. They're running around and like Taylor Swift's performing here or whatever, and just makes a bunch of cameo.
Sign me up.
Yeah. But like, yeah, for us watching this 70-year-old movie nearly, yeah, we're a little disconnected from the times, from these actors. And for me, I think a story like this had a lot of potential. And I don't know too much about like Jules Verne, like the source material, but I just think there's opportunity here for Fogg to be this like really unlockable guy, but through his journey and through this adventure, learns about interacting with people different than him and being just a more informed, better human being by the end of it. You know, Passport could have found an opportunity outside of Fogg and, you know, maybe found better employment or whatever. Like, I just think there was like opportunities for there to be like an emotional center to this movie, but it really was more about like the sights and sounds. And yeah, like Carly said, like, I think this was probably really novel in the 1950s, but I just don't think it ages super well.
Agree.
So for our ratings, the emoji we used was a classic one, a globe. I did ask Carly during the filming, like, what would be the title of this movie for a flat earther? Because they just would hate the word around. How to fall off the edge of the world in 80 days.
Yeah. I was going to say, what did we come up with? It was like, yeah, falling off the edge in 80 days.
To the edge
in 80 days.
Yeah, so I can't imagine flat earthers love this movie, especially that guy I matched with on Tinder.
Yeah, I was going to say, we can't mention flat earthers and not talk about someone that Brad had been talking to on a dating app. And
Okay,
it was very noted on his profile, correct, that he was a flat earther.
Okay, here's how I remember it, okay? So Carly and I were in Los Angeles for the first time, attending a higher ed conference, a work conference, and we're in the hotel room, and of course, like, I'm on some of these apps out there, don't go looking for me. And this was Tinder, I do remember that. So I matched with this guy, and I'm not necessarily looking through the profiles. I kind of do superficially, just I'm like, oh, left, right, whatever.
Books covers.
You know, matched with this guy, we were talking, and I'm like, oh, I'm here visiting, I got a work conference. And he was like, oh, I have a conference here too, the Flat Earth Society. And I took a moment, I took a beat. I was like, maybe I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe this is like a band name. And I was like, oh, this is my response. I was like, oh, is that for people who believe the Earth is flat?
And here's the best part.
He takes a beat and responds, no, it's for people who know the Earth is flat. And I stopped talking to him, and he unmatched me, and that was the end of our 30-minute relationship.
One of my favorite dating app stories ever.
Couldn't believe, especially in California, where like I just feel like it's so liberal there, and just you wouldn't expect to come across a flat earther in Los Angeles.
People and Kyrie Irving. I'm sure you know all about that.
Yes, I've heard of that name before. Yeah. So the emoji we used was the Earth, which I guess technically kind of looks like a two-dimensional Earth. So that is the emoji we used, and I'm giving it just 1 out of 5. To me, it was so clear upon watching this movie how I felt about it, and I just sort of unabashedly am going to give this a 1 out of 5.
Same, and I also give it 1 globe.
1 globe, yes, 1 out of 5.
Yeah.
So if it wasn't for Brad and Carly, let's see, who was this movie for? And I'll go first. And while this movie does have a certain whimsical tone about it, a very musical theater-esque vibe, and they do stop in San Francisco, which is a very gay place, but then we just skip over New York City. They don't even go to Fire Island or Provincetown, like, for Pride Month. Like, they don't even go there.
No Broadway show.
No Broadway show. The Passport's facial hair, I just have to give it a big thumbs down. This movie is just, it's not for the gays. It's not for us.
When I considered if it's for the girlies, I gave it a very quick thumbs down as well. It is not for the girlies.
God, when are we going to, I guess you gave a thumbs up to Oliver, but really, like,
yeah,
I think I'm so desperate for like a female lead movie.
Oh my gosh.
We kind of knew this was coming, right? Like when we were talking about this project, but it's still, I mean, like we're 4 movies in, and like we've we certainly have had some interesting female characters to talk about, but none of them have really been like portrayed in such a like knockout, home run sort of way.
Did you say knockout, like punching?
Yeah. Yeah, like we weren't like blown away by like the female representation in
Not
these
at all.
movies. We weren't knocked out by it.
Not at all.
So
it did. None of them punched me in the face or anything.
And obviously, you know, so far most of the Best Picture winners are directed by men, and you have to imagine the crew are probably a lot of men. Like we know that this is a male dominated field, and I do think you can really tell the difference when you see a female character. You just kind of know whether or not a man or a woman created this female character. Like there's just some subtle and not so subtle differences. So I agree. Well, let's talk about where we rank this, because I think that will be kind of quick as well.
Yeah.
And to me, this is fairly simple. I like to put it in the F tier, the
our
bottom.
First F. F for first. Big F, and I'm happy to put it there. I don't think it will move, although it is a fluid system. I think it'll stay.
I would be so shocked to find at the end of this it's our least favorite movie. Like, there has to be probably even worse ones that we'll come across. But I have to be honest with, like, what my experience was. And maybe Carly and I just weren't in the mood that day to watch this movie. Who knows? But, like, I have to go off of what my experience was.
Yeah, don't put this on us.
It just wasn't. Yeah.
It's a movie. It's their fault. F for fault. It's going to be there forever. F for forever. It's an F.
It's an F dog for me. Yeah, well, let's talk about these Academy Awards. So, again, this was the 29th Academy Awards. It was hosted by Jerry Lewis, who was a comedian, and a woman, Celeste Holm, who is an actress, and she starred in a Best Picture winner that we will talk about someday, A Gentleman's Agreement.
Wow, I can't wait for her to be a leading lady that's obsessed with all the gentlemen in that film.
The leading lady in a movie called Gentleman's Agreement.
I can't wait to watch that one.
So Janet Gaynor presented the Best Motion Picture, so that's who we heard in the recording at the beginning of this episode. Yes, we briefly mentioned her when we talked about Wings, because she starred in Seventh Heaven, which was one of the other movies nominated for Best Picture. So let's talk about the lesser half, some of these movies that lost somehow to Around the World in 80 Days. We have a movie called Friendly Persuasion. This was directed by William Wyler. We've already mentioned him before, but he has directed, I believe, 3 different Best Picture winners. We have yet to talk about any of those movies, but he clearly is a prolific director. He has directed movies that have clearly won, and he's still kind of in the conversation with the Oscars, period. So I'm very curious to learn more about him later. But Friendly Persuasion, it's a Civil War drama, and Ronald Reagan gifted this to Gorbachev to symbolize peaceful solutions and to end the Cold War.
Oh, wow. How nice.
Because the movie that is about Civil War somehow carried a message of like hope and like putting down our arms and resolving conflict.
Imagine being gifted a movie, like not even like as a disc or a videotape, but just being gifted the idea of a movie, you know? Like, this movie is yours.
Hey pal, get a load of this, okay? And I think you'll feel differently about war. Unbelievable. I don't think it worked either.
I don't think, no.
So. The next movie is a movie called Giant. It was one of James Dean's final roles. He does get a posthumous Oscar this night, but he sadly died 2 years before this Oscars took place.
Wow.
So this was one of his final roles. This movie also had the most nominations this night with 10, and it only won in one category. So kind of giant loser.
Oh my God, I was thinking right when you said a movie called Giant, I was like, giant loser.
Yeah. And then we have a adaptation of The King and I.
Ooh, love.
It took home as many Oscar wins as 80 Days did with 5. And then The 10 Commandments. We can't seem to escape the Oscars without a good religious epic movie.
I can't wait for you to cover that in your spin-off podcast.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Add it to the list.
Like, he's my better half. It's God. How are you? How are you, God? So 8 nominations for Around the World in 80 Days, and it wins in 5. It wins Best Motion Picture. It wins Best Writing for Adapted Screenplay, Best Music, Cinematography, and in Film Editing. It loses in Best Directing, Best Art Direction, and Best Costume Design. Something else that's noteworthy here was that none of our actors, there were no nominations for this movie in any of the acting categories.
Probably because they didn't do anything.
Right, exactly. So I think it's another reflection of this movie, I think clearly won based on its cinematography and the epicness of it versus like any performances within the movie. And I did read too, like, Around the World in 80 Days is the most recent movie in Oscars history to not win any awards in directing or acting, but win Best Picture.
Wow.
So literally from here on out, every movie that since Around the World, they secured a win somewhere. And I think it's most commonly that like the Best Picture also wins in the Best Director category. Yeah. They kind of go hand in hand. But yeah, this was the last time that any movie won Best Picture, but didn't win in any of those other categories.
Wow, I wonder what was the bigger upset, if 80 Days winning or the director Michael Anderson losing. You know, I wonder which was the bigger shock.
Yeah.
Or if it wasn't a shock, it might not have been.
I just have to imagine, you know, obviously I have not seen any of the other 4 movies in this category, but I have to imagine they turned out some like decent writing and performances that I think this was an upset. I'm just going to say it. I think it was. The other noteworthy thing from this Academy Awards was that the international feature category like debuts here. Oh. So from here on out to that category exists for best international feature. It has a few different names over the course of history, but I believe now it's international feature. And then for our director spotlight, there's not a whole lot on Michael Anderson here. He also directed Logan's Run, which is a movie I have heard of. It's kind of like a dystopian. It's like a movie I feel like I should have seen probably by now and probably will. And Laurie Holden is his stepdaughter. And Laurie Holden is from The Walking Dead, plays Angela for the first 3 seasons. And she's also had a role in The X-Files. That's probably where people were most introduced to her. But I was like, wait, that's his stepdaughter? For some reason, I really equate 1950s to being so long ago. So ancient. And I'm like, how can you have somebody who's in The Walking Dead be your stepdaughter? But and then he also, I thought this was funny, he directed a adaptation of George Orwell's 1984, and he tried to give it a happy ending because he thought American audiences wouldn't handle something negative, and the movie flopped.
Sure, understandably.
But yeah, that's a lot of what I found. Carly, I'm curious, what kind of came up in your research?
Yeah, so first I did a little bit of digging on the 3 main characters in the film. So David Niven plays Phileas Fogg. A couple big things. He was an author as well. He wrote 4 books, so I figured you and him have that in common. You're writers. That's something big.
Oh. Yeah.
And then the only other big thing, David Niven, very big actor, by the way. I don't know, I looked through his filmography and there weren't a lot of movies. I was like, oh, I've seen that, but you've definitely heard of him. You've probably definitely seen him in something.
Okay.
And I don't want to step on your toes for a future spotlight of the awards, but David Niven, I don't know if you saw this when you were looking into it, but he's the only person to win an Oscar at a ceremony he is also hosting.
Oh,
yeah,
fun.
yeah. So that was like the biggest cool thing I read about him, apart from his very decorated career. But there were also a couple other funny big things that happened at that Oscars, but I don't want to spoil. But that was a big thing. And then Cantinflas, who plays Passepartout, aka Passport, a huge Latin American star, like one of the biggest ever.
Okay.
While David Niven was billed as the lead actor in America, pretty much in every other part of the world, Cantinflas was billed as the top actor. And it was sold and advertised as such, which does make sense. And if you think back to the movie, I think he does play a bigger role in the movie.
I think so too, yeah. Maybe we didn't touch down on it a whole lot, but we really see each place, like, we always stop in on Passport. He's always like looking around with like amazement at all the places they've been, like really wide-eyed, just like extremely happy to be there. So, even though Fogg is sort of like a miserable character, I think, to have to be around and, that's his boss, he really still finds like the joy and optimism and hope. And
yeah,
I agree that like he should have been promoted as the lead of this movie because his character took on much more heavy lifting than Fogg did.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I was looking into the book adaptation, the original adaptation of this book by Jules Verne, Passepartout did not have as big of a role in the book at all. It was greatly expanded to accommodate Cantinflas because they wanted to incorporate him in the movie. I think it also I kind of saw Cantinflas Passport. I think he was kind of the public's eyes throughout the movie. I think he oftentimes was like how if we were traveling the world, how we would react, things we would do. Not that we would go join circuses, but I think like the awe and amazement and the fun he was having is consistently kind of brought us back to, oh, we're traveling the world and these are fun things we would see. Definitely wasn't as big of a part in the book. Cantinflas is not his real name, but I did read that it's his actor name and it's an alias name that he came up with when he first started acting because he didn't want his parents to know he was performing. And around town, there would be like posters of plays and things and movies, and they would have to put the actors on it. So he came up with this alias Cantinflas that he was then always known as.
Okay.
Yeah, he's definitely a big star, kind of known as like the Latin Charlie Chaplin, in that he performs, he's comedic, all of that. Charlie Chaplin and him were actually good friends because they often felt they mirrored each other in different parts of the world.
I could see that in the movie. I feel like he brought like a lot of physical comedy to around the world, like with the bullfighting and stuff. Like I think I could totally see that comparison.
Yeah. Then we go to Shirley MacLaine.
Hey girl.
I did read, and I did not fact check this because I don't care enough and it would have taken forever, but I believe it, and I thought it was really cool. Apparently, Shirley MacLaine is the only, as of this moment, June 2025, as when we're recording this, she's the only living person that was billed in this movie out of the whole movie.
She's still alive?
She's still alive, 91 years young.
Again, I'm like, I hear 1956 and I'm like, that was ancient
Oh, they're
times.
all long gone. Nope, Shirley defies all odds. At 91 years old, she's still here.
Wow.
Yeah, so Shirley MacLaine actually turned down the role twice. It's not known if it was because she saw how inappropriate it would be for her to act as a Hindu princess, but she turned it down a lot. There were a lot of other people noted to be considered for the role, all white as well, so don't get your hopes up. It was a big role for her. It was her first large motion picture role. She does have one Oscar for a role in a film that we'll watch later called Terms of Endearment.
Okay.
30 years after this film.
Wow.
And I had a little trivia I want to throw at you. So
okay.
I was looking up what she's been in, and she's been in some films that we would know. But the last thing she was in, it's a TV show. She was in 2 episodes of it, and it's a TV show. It was in 2022, and she was in 2 episodes of a TV show, and I know you watch it, and I want to know if you know what it is or could guess what it is.
Was this the first season of that show in 2022?
I did not. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know, but
2
it was definitely one of the first couple.
She would have been in her, late 80s, and it's something you would have known I would have watched.
Totally.
Okay. And it's something that you have watched, right?
I have watched, not as much as you, but I've watched. That might give it away.
Is it an HBO show?
No. It is a streaming.
I was getting HBO vibes.
Streaming show, though.
So Netflix?
No. It's going to give it away.
Hulu?
Yes, Hulu.
It's a Hulu original?
Hulu There's not many of those, so I feel like we're getting...
Is it Only Murders in the Building?
Yes, good job. Wow, you didn't need any hints or anything.
Well... Joke's on the listeners, because I'm going to edit that down and make it sound like I got there much faster than I did in real life.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait to hear it. Do you know what show? Only Murders in the Building? Yes.
Unfortunately, I have seen every episode so far, and I could not tell you who she was, or I assuming this last season dealt a lot with like actors on the stage and stuff, so maybe she popped up there.
Yeah,
there is a lot of stars in that show.
Well, something interesting, and I know that they also are like actors. A lot of the stars are actors in that show, whatever. Actors within the show. When I looked on IMDb, she had 2 character names. So I don't know if she was in 2 different episodes or if she was in one. I know there's like a play in the 3rd season. So I don't know. Something for you to look into. But I thought that was pretty cool. That was the last thing she's been in, and that was in 2022. So hopefully she's just enjoying her riches and just relaxing. Shirley was also named after Shirley Temple.
Makes sense.
Okay, so the last things I looked into were just the differences between the book by Jules Verne and the movie. The biggest one I would say was the Passepartout character was a lot smaller. Also a big one, and I was kind of shocked to hear this, but Princess Ayuda is in the book and a Hindu woman. I was shocked to hear this, but she was an actual Hindu woman, did not have to wear any fake bronzer throughout the book, and they actually, based her on a real Hindu character. So that was pretty shocking compared to what we saw. Okay, this was also another big one. In the whole book, there's no hot air balloon. So it continues to be a mystery why this is such a big... I guess there's one mention of a hot air balloon in the book, and it's how ridiculous of an idea it would be to use one of those in the journey. It's, quote, an absurd idea in the book, and it's noted that because of this movie is why it's such a symbol of this film, or of this book, of this story, and... Again, it was only in 20 minutes of the movie, if that. I
mean, I do have to agree with the decision to have the hot air balloon. Obviously, in a novel, it's not that. Who cares, right? If the character's in a hot air balloon, but like it's such a visually striking image, you got to have it in a movie, even if it's very unpractical. But then you're kind of labeling this as a lighthearted comedy, silly, ridiculous, over the top kind of movie, anyways. So I think it works. But you're right. Like somehow like that image of it has permeated just throughout pop culture history to the point where like we believe 70 years later that like this hot air balloon was like a bigger part of the entire movie. Right. Or maybe I just keep getting confused with Pixar's Up, but
a little different story. But yeah, so that was big. Big things like the bullfight were not in the novel, so you can just tell they really amped up some of those more cinematically exciting things. The international dateline did not exist when the book was written, so that's why they were able to kind of confuse the days with the hours and all of that. So obviously now we have phones and things where we could actually know what time. The dateline was actually commented on a lot in the Wikipedia page, and how because we have that now, it could never happen. You could never confuse days anymore. Absurd.
I know. It still kind of feels like a technicality or semantics. Like, did it honestly still take you 80 days, or did it take you 81 days to get around the world? Don't look at what the clocks are telling you. Like, did the sun revolve 80 days?
Well, and like when they decided on this, they weren't like, okay, so I'll be back on... It says that in the Wikipedia page, December 22nd at 8:45 p.m. or whatever. Or were they just like, we're going to count to 80 days? You know, we're like they didn't decide any of these semantics, although they all had like their life savings bet on this wager. So
yeah. And again, maybe why Fogg should have just taken a day or two to really figure out the details of this wager before he was like, I'm just going to go right now.
So that definitely was something. And then the ending of the book was a little bit different. In the end, it does not end by them being shocked, taken aback by the sight of a woman, unfortunately. Fogg wins, gets a lot of money, and it says that he split his earnings with two people. Who do you think the two people are?
I mean, it's got to be Passport and the Princess.
You would think. It's Passport and Detective Fix. The guy who wrongfully put him in jail, arrested him, followed him around the world just to wrongfully imprison him for about 4 hours, I think. So
So the princess was like, I have to marry you so I can get half your money.
And that's the thing. Like... So they do get married in the end, the princess and Fogg. So they do get married, and in a way, he does split the money with her too. But yeah, he splits the money with those two, and they all live happily ever after. And yeah, those were the big differences I found. I looked in a little bit into the cameos of this film, and you had mentioned like it would be cool for today to have like cameos. And in the 2004 Jackie Chan version, there are a lot of cameos if you look back on that. But the only person I recognized, I even looked into a lot of Wikipedia pages of all 40 cameos they say are in this movie. Frank Sinatra is the only person I even recognize as a name, a person, etc. So yeah, that's really all that I looked into.
That Jackie Chan was 2004, you said?
Jackie Chan, Owen Wilson, those were the big people in that one. But there were a lot of...
It just sounds like a nice year of movies. Maybe we should go there soon.
That's a good idea.
2004.
Okay. Let's take a hot air balloon.
And just see what's going on there, you know? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I still, I don't know. I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, the book is always better or whatever, but I still just like, and obviously this novel was written in the 1800s, like a long time ago, but like, and Jules Verne is like a celebrated author, 10,000 Leagues Under the Sea or whatever it is.
20,000, but yes. Oh, and that was something else I read about Jules Verne, and I was going to say, because I know you like this stuff, is a lot of people, because of the books he wrote, have said that he's sometimes named the father of sci-fi. Because he did. He started with stuff like this, and then he really spun into things like the Earth and the Moon book, and he has like these adventure books, the 20,000 Leagues, this one. Okay. So a lot of people note him, especially in France, as the father of sci-fi. So, I mean, that's like your favorite genre. So where would your films be without Mr. Verne?
I wouldn't go that far. I would say so far, I don't feel very motivated to do a deep dive of Verne's bibliography. I can see the appeal of these like big adventure things where like maybe people don't care necessarily about the characters or the plot. They just want like a good adventure. I get that. I think there could have been more to the story or an elevated way to tell this particular story, but at the end of the day, it is what it is, and it still resonates with some people. So kudos to you if you're one of those people that likes the story.
Yeah, I wonder how much more character development is in the book, because so much of the movie was just scenery, and I mean, you can write about that, but I don't know. I just feel like there has to be more character development, characters, backstory in the book, because what else would you write about?
And that's the end, as the Reform
And that's the end.
So now, in a way, I think this is good that we've come across a movie that we didn't necessarily like love. It tells me that like we're not going to have the same reaction to each of these Best Picture winners, that there is going to be a wide variety of experiences, films that connect with us, films that don't connect with us. So I am in partly glad that we have come across one that we just can know and definitively say, like, it wasn't for us.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
It's so interesting, too, to think about how much Best Picture winner is dependent on what other films came out that year. Who knows what movies wouldn't have won if another movie would have come out 2 or 3 months earlier. You know, it's just bizarre to think about. But yeah, this one for that year somehow was the best. And congratulations to this film.
Yes, congrats to you. I will probably never watch it again.
No, but I'm glad we did it together.
Yeah, we got this one done out of the way. Now we can move on
to our next one.
So we're finally heading to a more modern season. A movie finally where both Carly and I were alive. And so, yeah, I guess without further ado.
I will say, we have hinted at this movie throughout the pod.
Yeah.
So, like, pause, take a second. Can you guess what it is before we announce it? Okay, welcome back.
Yes, we have talked a lot about money. $1 million, perhaps. We've talked about children.
We have not talked about babies. We talked about fighting, punching, strong female leaders. And as a result, we are
2004.
watching... In 2004, that's right. So, with all of those clues, we are watching...
$1 Million Baby.
Woohoo!
Or, as Moira would say, $1 Million Bebe.
Bebe.
Yes, we're very excited about it. And we're also excited to tease a little bit about this next episode, but Carly and I will be filming this one in Manhattan, Kansas, which is where we met almost exactly 10 years ago. Yeah. So we're very excited for this trip. We're very excited to be podcasting in the place where we met. And I think it's going to be a good one. I'm excited for it.
Yeah. You can take this out or not, but we will have a guest, our first guest on the pod.
Our first guest.
So you can, if you
stay tuned.
Try to guess who it is, if you can. And when this next episode comes out, you can see if you're right.
And if you're wrong, then you're a big loser. You're a giant loser.
Giant loser.
All right. Well, we will see you next time as we dive into a certain baby and how much it's worth.
Can't wait.
All right. Well, bye.
Bye, Bradley.
Love you.
I love you.